Hello everyone and welcome to Blaugrana Everything, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to what is a very different video, because of course this is for something that we don't always have, right? We don't always have a World Cup around, and I was just thinking about the fact, like, you know what, we call this channel Blaugrana Everything, meaning that we should always be about those Blaugranas, you know what I'm saying? We should always be about the Kool-Aids, and there is a butt ton of Kool-Aids who are playing at this World Cup, okay? This is the highest number of Kool-Aids ever in the history of the tournament, okay, in the history of FC Barcelona to go to a World Cup. So we've got a total of 17 players, okay? All these dudes going to the World Cup, and I've just been thinking, you know what I will be doing from here onwards is I will be bringing you a roundup of each round of fixtures, okay? Not each day of fixtures, but each round of fixtures. So what I'm just going to be doing here is with each round, I will be taking a look at all the Kool-Aids that were in action, and basically we're just going to be having a quick rundown, looking at the results and looking at how these dudes performed. So I don't know, how does that sound to you? Does it sound good? If it sounds good, then please do hit that like button. You know, if it doesn't sound good, hit dislike, you know, that's feedback as well. But yeah, without further ado, let's get straight into this. Now, we had to actually wait until the second day of fixtures before we got to see the first Kool-Aids in action at this edition of the World Cup, okay? Well, day one was just, you know, Qatar and Ecuador, so we had to wait until day two, and in particular match number 3, which was between the Netherlands and Senegal, where we saw our first Kool-Aids in action, those players being Frenkie de Jong and Memphis Depay. Memphis Depay was a second half substitute, while Frenkie de Jong played the full 90 and really had a very good game. Actually, both Depay and Frenkie de Jong were involved in both of the Netherlands' goals as they won 2-0 against Senegal. Frenkie de Jong had the assist for Cody Gakpo, whilst it was Memphis Depay's shot that Mendy deflected into the path of Gavi, who, you know, tapped it into an empty net. So the first match, that's all Kool-Aids in action. So a pretty good performance from both of the Kool-Aids, I guess. Well, it was definitely a good performance from Frenkie de Jong because he was man of the match, and you know, encouraging cameo for Memphis Depay, who hasn't played a match since before the last international break, which is, like, you know, crazy. Anywho, next up we saw Serginho Dest in action. Yep, you probably even forgot about him, didn't you? Shame on you. We had Serginho Dest in action on the same day, you know, in the late fixture between the United States and Wales. And in that fixture, which ended as a 1-1 draw, I'm going to say that Serginho Dest had there was a meh kind of performance, you know. Could have been better, could have been worse. Wasn't exactly something you want to write home about, but you know, he was at least passable as a player here, okay? He didn't embarrass himself, but as much as he didn't do that, he didn't also really put his mark on this game or do anything extraordinary. After that, the next Kool-Aid that we saw in action was Andres Christensen against Tunisia. You know, Tunisia and Denmark, who played out a goalless draw in what was, to be quite honest, a quite tense match that there was here between Denmark and Tunisia, and ultimately neither side was able to find a way to break through the opposition's defense, because, you know, both defenses, I should highlight here, were pretty solid. So, you know, that means that Andres Christensen had a decent match, and he was probably the best defender on the pitch here for Denmark. So, you know, a good showing from him on the day. And we then had one more Kool-Aid in action on the same day. In fact, we had 3 more Kool-Aids in action on the same day. First up was Robert Lewandowski in action for Poland against Mexico, and unfortunately for our big number 9, it did not go well at all. He had a chance to win the match for Poland from the penalty spot, but you know, that World Cup legend, the man who shows up at every World Cup and is the best goalkeeper ever, Guillermo Ochoa, stopped him. He saved Robert Lewandowski's penalty, and beyond that, really, there wasn't much in this performance-wise, you know, from Poland or from Mexico. So that was probably like the first underwhelming performance that we've seen at this World Cup by a Kool-Aid, you know, not to be harsh on Lewandowski, but yeah, probably. Then next up, we had Ousmane Dembele, who was in action for France against Australia, and it was a really, really good game by Dembele. He was able to get an assist as well for Mbappe on France's third goal. And honestly, he was doing all the right things, you know. He was looking like Dembele at Barca has been looking, and best of all, he did not suffer any injury, so that was definitely a big plus there. And you know, keeping Kingsley Coman out of the team as well, that's no mean feat. So keep it up, Ousmane Dembele. We're not able to see Jules Koundé really get much action because he came on as a late substitute in like the 90th minute, but you know, I guess he was okay as well. Anywho, moving on, the next Kool-Aid that we saw in action was none other than Izzy Abde for Morocco against Croatia, and he too came on as a substitute, and unfortunately he was just not there. He had some pretty good opportunities to show what he's about, you know, 1v1 with the defenders on the break, that kind of thing. But you know, I guess the World Cup nerves got to him. You know, ultimately he is just like a kid. He did this whole Cruyff turn thing, but then like he left the ball behind, which was like it was cringe, and it was, you know, so like you felt like for him, you know what I mean? Like you felt like, damn it, I wish he'd managed to pull that off. Anywho, so as update, not too good from him. And the next Kool-Aid didn't really get to see much action. He was watching from the bench, and he watched as one of the shocks of the tournament was put off by Japan, who came from a go down to beat Germany 2-1. To beat Germany by 2-1. That was, of course, Marc-Andre ter Stegen. He watched the entire match from the bench. Manuel Neuer having a bit of a nightmare in that second half. Once again, struggling against Asian opposition in the World Cup, you know. I guess Germany just don't want to see any Asian competition now. And finally, we saw the majority of, you know, Barcelona's contingent at this World Cup in action. And that was Spain, who fielded really almost every one of the Barca players that they had called up, with the exception of Ansu Fati, who I don't get why Ansu Fati didn't get some minutes here, because like if he's not going to get minutes in a match which you're like running away with against Costa Rica, like when exactly is he going to get minutes? So a bit worried for Ansu in that regard. But anyway, we saw Alba, Pedri, Gavi, and Ferran Torres all in action. Jordi Alba getting an assist early on there for Marco Asensio, who scored Spain's second goal as they trounced Costa Rica by 7-0. And we finally saw Kool-Aid find the back of the net here. Ferran Torres was the first to do it. He scored a brace before Gavi then scored a golazo of his own. Like, honestly, that was easily maybe the best goal of the game. And yeah, it was great performances. Busquets was good, Pedri was good, Alba was good, so was Gavi, I mentioned, and so was Alejandro Balde, who came on as a substitute for Alba. And it was actually his run that was instrumental in creating the chance for Gavi's goal. So, you know, he didn't directly create it, but he had opened up some space for Morata, who then cut the ball back to Gavi on the edge of the area, who, you know, did the rest. And so that leaves us with two more players to look at, and those are Rafinha and Ronald Araujo. Now, Araujo is currently still injured, so he wasn't available for Uruguay as they drew 0-0 with South Korea on Thursday. So with nothing really much more to add there, we'll go ahead and talk about Rafinha, who had quite an interesting performance, I'll put it that way, for Brazil. He was actually quite lively in this game. He was involved in a lot of the chances that Brazil saw, and for a huge majority of the minutes that he was on the pitch anyway, he looked like the one forward most likely to open the scoring for Brazil, especially in that second half where he got quite a few chances, but he just couldn't find the finish, something which of course we've seen a couple of times with Barcelona. But overall, his gameplay on the day was pretty good for Brazil. He was helping out defensively quite a lot as well for Danilo. So not only was he tracking back, but he was also putting in enough pressure to cause, you know, confusion for Serbia when they were trying to play out from the back. And it's actually from one such scenario where he almost scored. So kudos though to the Serbia goalkeeper as well, who did quite a good job with some of the shots that he stopped by Rafinha. Anywho, that's basically that, guys. Let me know your thoughts on the performances that we've seen so far from the Kool-Aids in round one. Round 2 is coming up, starting today, Friday, and it's going to go on until I think Monday or Tuesday. I need to just double check, be sure which one it is. But as soon as round 2 is up, I will of course upload another video taking a look at how the Kool-Aids performed in round 2. And otherwise, for round 1, I'm supposed to pick a player of the round for Barcelona players. So yeah, the Blaugrana everything Kool-Aid of the round, I guess we could call it that. And this time around, it was pretty tight. Okay, it was pretty tight. So I gave it to Gavi and Ferran Torres. So yeah, that's basically that, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great day, and Forza Barca.